The size of things, it's all about perspective. That's what we believe in. We don't evaluate things by their size, but by their impact on lives every day. By daring to dream big, we turn the micro into the extraordinary. Or in other words, in our company, there's nothing small in what we do. What the human eye can barely glimpse through a microscope can transform millions of lives. What size is this needle? Big enough to help bring millions of babies to this world. We help create this atomic-sized marvel, paving the way for AI that could reshape mankind's future. Together, we can shape the future by taking bold steps that create lasting impact for generations. Sparking discovery, elevating humanity.
All right. Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. And thank you so much for joining our panel discussion today. From possibility to probability, accelerating drug development in the lab of the future. So I'm Karen Madden. I'm the Chief Technology Officer of MilliporeSigma, which is the life science business of Merck, KGaA, Darmstadt, Germany. I'm so excited to be here and guide this conversation here at CES 2026. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. But let me tell you a little bit more about MilliporeSigma and our life science business here too. We have a portfolio of over 300,000, yes, that's correct, different products that enable all aspects of scientific research and development, from all the way from the very, very basic, earliest scientific discoveries, all the way to biomanufacturing and the production of life-saving therapies. And so we really, at the heart of what we do, is we enable scientists to do science and to do the development and the manufacturing of these amazing molecules. But what's even more exciting is that we're part of Merck KGaA Darmstadt, Germany, an over 350-year-old company that has been all around using science as a force for good here. And it's not only what we do around life sciences, but also all the technologies that we have around electronics. And we also have a pharmaceutical business where we actually research and develop many of these important medicines. So we are supported by an amazing workforce of over 60,000 employees around the world here. And we really are committed to investing and sustainably investing in R&D to bring our company purpose to life, which you just saw here in this amazing video, sparking discovery and elevating humanity. And this really comes to life when all of these things come together, when science meets cutting-edge technology, like what we're seeing here at the CES. And really this is what, in my view, is what CES is all about. So this is the first time I've been to CES. I'm more of a life sciences, biology, healthcare kind of person here. And I have to say, I'm super impressed by what I see here today. And to talking to people who have been here at CES before, where it's been very consumer focused, right, on kind of better TVs and better phones and better cameras, is that this event has truly transformed, I believe. And what you see here now is so many healthcare applications, is that there's certainly one thing that's clear to me after being here, is that there's really no future of health without technology. So as the foundation of that, or one of the really important pieces of this, of course, is drug discovery and development. And so I'm a scientist at heart, and I've spent countless hours in the lab and on the bench. And so I really know firsthand how hard it is and how hard drug development is. And it's super exciting. But most of the time, things don't work and things fail, and that's part of the problem, is that this whole design, make, test, analyze cycle that we have, it still takes too long and it still costs too much, and the outcomes are way too unpredictable. And it's almost, I might as well use an analogy here because we're in Vegas, right? It's like me at the tables are trying to gamble here and not being too successful. So that's what drug development is like today. Maybe some of you have been more successful. I have not yet, but I got one more night in Vegas, so I don't know, who knows. But we're hoping to be able to change that paradigm, and one of the key things to really doing that or unlocking it is AI. And AI is really opening doors that we couldn't have imagined a decade ago, and really is helping us boost success rates and create really new pathways for discovery. And what we're seeing is really remarkable, and what we're seeing is that it's really going to change the way we develop and deliver life-saving therapies to patients, hopefully faster and better than ever before. So what's really exciting is that we're witnessing, and a lot of this is happening because of the convergence of these technologies here, and that's, again, a lot of what we're seeing here at the CES. And it's a lot of what we're going to talk about today with our panelists as we talk about the lab of the future. So I want to welcome my panelists up here, and maybe they can walk up as I'm introducing them here. But I first want to invite up Laura Matz, who is one of my dear colleagues that I have the pleasure of working with, and she's the Chief Science and Technology Officer of all of Merck KGaA, Darmstadt, Germany, and she really is in charge of shaping our company's strategic vision and really setting the agenda for how we collaborate, both within Merck, KGaA, Darmstadt, Germany, and outside of it. So welcome Laura here. The next person I'd like to welcome up is Haiying Grunenwald. She's the head of our biology here at MilliporeSigma in our Advanced Solutions group. And she's really pioneering the use of AI and new biological techniques across how we do biology differently and how we understand biology really at the digital level. And then finally, a really, really special thanks to Sean O'Hare here, who's the Executive Director of Global Presales at Siemens. And special thanks to him because he's one of our key partners, right? And as I said before, collaboration is really key to having all of this happen. And we can't thank Sean and Siemens for being here to support this. So everybody have a seat and then let's get going. All right, Laura. So you're right next to me. So you're the first one who's up here. And you're also up here, too, because I had the pleasure of seeing you on a panel earlier today discussing some of these topics. And also there with Jerry, who's out there, too, from Siemens and also from NVIDIA. And I was wondering if you could share a little bit, maybe some of the key takeaways from that panel. I attended the panel. I don't know if anybody else did. But I thought it would be super helpful to maybe just give a little recap of that.
Sure. So first of all, it's great to be here. It's such an exciting CES. I think I was talking with a colleague that this CES seems to be one of the most groundbreaking that we've had. So it's good that this is your first one, I will say. So the panel, we talked about kind of the evolution of drug discovery and kind of healthcare in general. And we had Jerry from Siemens. We had a woman representing NVIDIA. And so what you can see is this kind of convergence of technology also being shaped by partnerships. And I think a lot of what we talked about was how we can bring kind of capability to the sort of fundamental challenges of drug discovery and drug development by partnering across NVIDIA, which is kind of leading not only the high performance compute, but also the generation of kind of leading edge AI models, but then also Siemens bringing kind of this end-to-end sort of Siemens systems level view of drug development. And then for us, we're really working on kind of how we can bring the scientific knowledge into the digital world and create kind of that knowledge in a digital twin, in a virtual representation, so we can be faster, so we can have greater productivity. And I think, honestly, I was so inspired after having that discussion because there's just so much opportunity in front of us.
That's great. Is there anything you want to talk about just in terms of at Merck, KGaA, Darmstadt, Germany, what we're doing, or maybe some of your thinking around that, how some of these partnerships are coming together?
Sure. I mean, I think so I'm not a pure pharma person for the past, for the most of my career. And I will say coming into this space, to make a drug takes 10 to 12 years, 2 billion plus, and the probability of success is 10% at most.
Those are the Vegas odds.
Yeah, I mean, these are exactly the Vegas odds. Now I'm kind of sad that you didn't win last night, but you have one more night.
One more night.
Yeah. So for me, the question that we have across all aspects of the drug development process is how do we increase the odds? So we're doing this in the early drug discovery by building better molecule in silico models for molecule generation. But then we're pairing that with our high throughput automation lab for synthesis and biology screening, right? So that we can really generate a much more holistic data set where we can create predictivity for that early part of the drug development process. But then we're also working on how do we create better representation of the human biology early on, right? And so this is then where the partnerships with the life science team, working on kind of organoids, 3D organoids, organ on a chip, this can really pull that understanding of how the molecule will work in human biology much, much earlier. And I think this is, for me, this kind of collaboration, and given that we have this incredible capability in the life science business with the building blocks, the biology, I mean, this is such a huge opportunity to really sort of change the dynamic in drug development.
Yeah. Let me build off of that, and maybe I'll jump to the end there to you, Sean. And again, welcome here. And we're super excited about our partnership that we just announced late last year with Siemens, and it's around sort of the early scientific informatics platforms and smart manufacturing. And so we're really excited about that. Can you tell us a little bit about that and kind of what it entails and kind of what we're planning to do together and why everybody should care?
Sure. If this works, it works good. So I joined this partnership in late October, early November. So it's been a very recent, very fast-moving process. The ask came in, can you get together with the Merck team and work on an integration with our data platform Luma and their in silico synthetic retrosynthetic tool called Cynthia? And we said, sure, let's do that. Met, I believe, the first time on November 8th. So this is our first meeting with them. The idea was, can we integrate real-world chemical data with in silico chemical route finding and do something cool with that? So it's sort of an open question. The prototype of that demo was presented on December 8th. So this is how fast the technology can work when you find a good partnership that really is adjacent technologies that don't compete, and there's just a wide open space to work together. So that was a really, really fast-moving project for us. And that was one part. There's a couple other pieces that we worked on with this. One is with your lab of the future, which I think is the later question today. Can we help with some of the data management of that tool? And there's a lot to it. It does AI informed logistics of sample creation and assay running. And it's really a very, very ambitious project with a lot of literally moving parts, but also intellectually moving parts. What could we do with that? And that's sort of an ongoing piece that I think we're meeting next week with your team on that. So it's an ongoing live partnership that's really moved very quickly, technically, and there's a lot of interesting things to come.
Yeah, I think it's a great example, if I could just comment on it just for a minute before going to Haiying, is that we're seeing this, I call it kind of this blurring of the physical world with the digital world, right? And so this is a great partnership between the two of us, really building off of our strengths. As I said, we have 300,000 largely physical products that we commercialize, and our customers are academic researchers, government hospital researchers, small biotechs, big biotechs, and pharma companies. And then, of course, Siemens is a world leader in the digital world, right? And so I think this is a perfect marriage between the two of us, really coming together to provide our collective customers with the technologies and the tools and the products and solutions that they need to enable their research. So, Haiying, I don't want to leave you out of this here too, but why don't you talk a little bit about kind of where biology fits into this and some of the things that you're working on and what you're driving in this lab of the future?
Oh yeah, great question. And first and foremost, this is also the very first CES. What an incredible show. So Karen and myself are quote-unquote outsiders from the life science, and I think the fact that we're here is showing the transition, the trend. Is biology, life science emerging with semiconductors and electronics and AI robotic, right? We're the early pioneers of this convergence happening, right? So fantastic show. So how are we using AI for both chemistry and biology? Is 3 steps. The most 3 important things that we apply in AI is retrosynthesis and model building. So AI can train the data both using the successful results and the failed results, and from that to be more prescriptive and predictive. And the second one, be using AI to optimize the biology and the chemistry reaction conditions to make it, again, prevent failure earlier and, before the experiments even conducted. Through the design work with AI, we can predict those failed experiments and only do the experiments that are successful. The third one is closed loop. AI allows us to have the feedback loops from dry lab, which is AI and machine learning, and the wet lab experiments. With those 3 steps, there's tremendous benefit that AI can come and support both biology and chemistry, right? I mean, I would say AI is not faster pipetting. AI allows us to do faster learning.
That's great. That's great. And I think that brings us back to the design, make, test, analyze cycle, right? That we're looking to not just condense in terms of time, but also make it better and smarter and get more learnings out of it too. But I can't help asking you, Haiying, because if you haven't visited over here in the far corner of our booth, we have some really cool chips over there. Do you want to talk about those a little bit and what they are and why we should care?
Yeah, no, great question. So the chips, the station 3 at the corner is something we call the MPS, microphysiological system. It's a fancy word to say human organs on chip, right? Why do we care? It's because if we can enable that, we can skip the animal model, go directly to human model. And that is basically shorten the drug discovery time, reduce the cost dramatically, and much more relevant because drugs tested on animals are not 100% representative of how they will behave in humans. So we actually had a comprehensive panel yesterday talking about where we are in the world for MPS, how do we build ecosystem, how do we build that trust of the biology so pharma companies can actually start developing drugs based on MPS.
Yeah, it's super exciting. So if you haven't taken a look over there, I invite you to go over there after our panel to see that and the other exhibits that we have here too. But maybe what I'll do now is just kind of ask some questions and anybody can start, right, and build off of it. So I'll just kind of leave it here and maybe think a little bit out into the future. So as life science and electronics and all of this digital transformation continue, and AI, right, continue to intersect or converge, which they're going to, and we're seeing it here. What foreseeable kind of breakthroughs or outcomes do you foresee or hope for in the coming years? Laura, maybe I'll start with Laura. I put you on the spot.
All right. I mean, I think I'm very practical in the drug development. I think one statistic I learned early on is that maybe 50% of the drugs fail because of liver toxicity that isn't seen until phase 3 clinical trials. And if you kind of dig into the spending for clinical trials, phase 3 is the most expensive, but you've spent all along the process, and then you can have a failure. So for me, like a very practical benefit of what Haiying just talked about is if we can predict liver toxicity early on in the screening and weed out all those candidates, we've made a huge leap in terms of drug development. And I think that's something we can see. We're close. We're probably 2-3 years. But also will have a huge impact in terms of the overall success rate. And really what we want to do, bring more therapies to patients faster. So that I'm really excited about.
Okay.
You want to go? I can go.
Yeah, just kind of build off on that, right? And the predictive model is only useful if it's connected to clinics and the human and precision medicine, right? So I think 2 to 3 years, like you said, we're very close that the predictive model will be very well connected and established and aligned with the clinical models. So we can have better patient stratification, better clinical trial enrollment that's based on biomarker selections, and then better data set, right? So I still say 2 to 3 years, the closed loop dry lab feedback with wet lab should be becoming a standard SOP. Those are the key predictions that I would like to see in 2 to 3 years.
I agree with that one. I think what we won't see in 2 to 3 years, what we'll start to see the road to it is there's this established 10 to 15 years and $2 billion price tag for making a drug, and 50% failure late, which is awful for everybody. Those things will start to go the other way, and they already have. From about 2010, it's started to go the other way. So we'll start to see the beginnings of the up tilt or down tilt to that curve, when you think about it, where drugs get cheaper and quicker to make. I think that's one thing that we definitely will see. The other thing that we'll see with AI that we haven't really seen is we'll be able to find more targets. And this is really interesting. There's so many diseases out there that we can't treat because we just don't know how they work. Really tragic things, dementia, Alzheimer's, and AI can look at so many variables of data so quickly and find things that we can't practically find in real human time frames, that some really interesting disease models and ways to treat things that we can't treat are going to come to the fore.
Yeah, no, that's exciting. Maybe I'll build off of it because I
can't
ask
help you, Karen.
I can't help myself. So I'm gonna sort of pile in over this too and build off of it too. And I think what's sort of really exciting is now the whole ability. And you actually touched on it in your panel earlier when you said, people have thought biology for a long time was a little bit more kind of art than science, not as well understood. Hard to program. I think we all maybe naively thought when we got the human genome sequenced in around 2000, over 25 years ago, that we would have this master blueprint, right? And we'd be able to then program biology. And I think we've not been able to do that very well, right? I mean, it certainly has improved and we've learned a lot from it. But now I think we're really sitting here now with the help of AI and with the help of all the compute power that we have here and some of these GPUs and other amazing chips that we have, where we can actually now start to think about programming biology, maybe like we do program a computer, right? We're seeing, advances since that time with, gene editing technologies that are happening. We're seeing, AlphaFold and other, amazing algorithms sort of design proteins that have that we've never seen before, that we don't have sequences for. And so I think that is hugely exciting. I am also, I think, trying to be realistic that it's not probably 2 to 3 years. There's a ton of things we still don't know. But I think with all of those technologies coming together, that we're going to start to get a little bit closer to that goal, which has me really, really super excited about the future of things here. So very good, very good. So let me ask here just to maybe end this because I think I'd love to end on kind of a little bit of note because to do these things, it's not easy, right? I mean, you can, as I like to say, it's easy to write it down on a PowerPoint slide, and it's much harder to actually make it happen. But maybe I could go down here and ask the teams, like, how do you make it happen in terms of partnerships, in terms of leadership, in terms of building teams, or something that you just want to offer to the group here in terms of how you actually do this and get stuff done, because that's what really matters.
This is probably the hardest question to really.
That's why it's last.
Right, exactly. So I think actually in the panel discussion, we had this interesting conversation about the silos that have been traditionally done over time in drug development. You have the chemists, you have the biologists, you have the clinicians, the translational medicine. All of these pieces sort of work independently, and that's been for various reasons to have that deep expertise. But what we talked about in the panel was now this kind of digital twin of the end-to-end drug development process can be in the enabling connection point among those various experts, so that they don't have to go and know every single expert in the company, but they have a digital representation of what came before them and then what comes after. And I think this is a huge enabler for kind of the future of how we work together, and then really how we sort of create greater predictivity throughout the entire process. And I'm looking at Jerry. I mean, I think I'm kind of capturing some of your words, the systems view, but I think that's really representative of what we can do now that we just couldn't do before. We didn't have the compute power. We didn't have the technology. It's now at our fingertips. It's our opportunity to really make that happen.
Exactly. Finding the right partners, right? Break down the silos. And I would just say it's the force of convergence. That the fact that Karen and myself are life science by training are at CES. We're not just working together on stage. We're actually working together in our labs, in our designs, in our mission statements, in our roadmap. I think this is how we break down the silos and come together, join forces, right? Exploration and accountability, I think it's something that's really important when we apply AI into our science and precision medicine.
Well, it's hard to follow up those two really good answers, so I'll try. I think it's important for us all to remember that we're, as a company, as people, we're only really, really, really good at a couple of things. And you mentioned at the top, biology is really, really hard. There's a million different things that come into it. So it's important to go out and find the right partners, the right experts, the right technologies to kind of fill in those gaps so that you're not constantly diluting the things you're really good at and building on that in a synergistic way with the rest of the ecosystem.
Oh, great. Well, I think that's a great note to end on here. And that's what CES right here is about, right? I think is mixing, mingling, rubbing elbows with people you normally might not rub elbows with, and seeing if some wonderful new idea comes out of it. So I really would like to, first of all, thank our panelists for the insight right here and what they're doing to help push the boundaries, innovation, and forge these partnerships here. And really, it's all about what we're doing together to spark discovery and elevate humanity, at least here at Merck KGaA, Darmstadt, Germany. So I hope you will keep the dialogue going here at this conference. I hope you will come up and engage with any one of us or anybody here in the booth to talk a little bit more about what's happening. And if you have any questions, let's see if there's any questions from the group here or the audience. Any brave soul. It's always the first one's the hardest one, right? And I can see everybody, so this is pretty easy.
Don't be shy. Don't be shy.
Johanna?
So my question is for you, Haiying. You talked about reduced timelines with MPS. And Karen, maybe we can find your lucky number for later. So are we talking days, years, months? What are we talking about when we say reduced timelines?
Great questions. We're talking about years. A standard drug development from the concept phase all the way to actually drug on the market, 10, 12 years. Okay, that's on the long side, and it's about $2 billion. So with MPS, a promise. Okay, we haven't done so yet. It's reducing to 1 to 3 years at some point, and then less than $500,000 or $500 million for this kind of a drug discovery. So reducing by years and reducing by billions.
Yeah, I think that's the great hope and we hear especially is reversing, or getting some Moore's law into drug discovery versus what that curve has looked like over many, many, many years.
Moore's law.
So then yes, exactly. So I think that is the hope, and so to put that in a semiconductor kind of world, maybe that's the way to say it.
I love it. Actually, I think this is next year's panel, the Moore's law for drug development.
Ironically, just a little note, they when the curve was not so good in drug discovery for many years, and it's still not so good, they actually have another law. It's called Arum's law. Does anyone know Arum's law? See, yes, anybody know? Okay, someone there, I see you. What's Arum's law? Oh, it's Moore's law spelled backwards. There you go. So, all right. There you learned a fun fact. Any other questions from the group? Otherwise, I'll close it out, and I'll invite everybody to ask your questions privately here and engage with us and hopefully with the wonderful exhibit that we have here. And thank you, and enjoy the rest of your show here, and safe travels.